I don't know if I can take it anymore.
When you are depressed, you don't want to get
It
out of
seems
it.
so hard today.
You don't want to be bothered with anyone.
I don't have any
But
motivation.
overcoming depression is going to require that you get up and engage with life again.
All I want to do is sleep.
When you are feeling down, the worst thing you can do
The last thing
is
I want to do is
isolate
hang out
yourself,
with my friends.
because isolation actually intensifies sadness.
I don't think this will ever
So
go
I
away.
recommend finding a distraction that will shift your energy.
I wish somebody would just save me from this mental hell. So thank you for joining us. I'm here today with Gabriel from Finally Detached. Thank you for allowing us to see that beautiful background there in Florida.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for having me, Barbie.
We're glad to have you here. Yeah, we're glad to have you here. So you're going to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. So I have dealt with depression for quite a long time, ever since I had my son, who's going to be turning 9. And it started off with postpartum depression. And I felt that medication was actually from a psychiatrist was scary to me. And so I had a hard time taking medication. I was good with going to therapy, but I had a hard time taking medication. So one of the things that I looked at was things like ayahuasca, microdosing, and all of these different things. And since you have Finally Detached, I would love to get one, your background and why this started, and then 2, give us some ideas of just why you do what you do and how it works.
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with the first, how I got into what I'm doing. I had a best friend who committed suicide when I was in college, and that is what sparked me on my journey to know myself, and from that point, reveal what was wrong with myself, or what I needed to fix, if you will. So I was able to start the journey of healing myself. So that's really how stepping into this psychedelic work, if you will, or working with plant medicines really came about, because it was during that time that I was exposed to some of these things recreationally, but there was some deeper calling to sit with them on my own when I was going through my darkest moments. And they led to deep insight, and it led me on a deeper journey. And that's where I really got into learning the power of the mind, learning how to reprogram my own mind, and then really teaching others how to do this for themselves, right?
Can I stop you? What does reprogram your mind mean for those that don't understand this world?
Absolutely. So the concept of reprogramming your mind comes from, I would say, the ideology that your mind is like a computer, and your brain is like a sponge, and it has been since birth. When you're a little kid, you're very programmable, and what we find is that a lot of the feelings that we get stuck in, a lot of our loops, a lot of our creation that we have no control over, comes from our subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind was programmed when we were adults, right? And that's that comes from society, that comes from our parents. That's where that really stems from. And the concept of reprogramming your mind is being able to, one, become aware of where you're in your own way, and then learning the skills to open up a dialogue with your subconscious mind, open up a way for you to drop suggestions and messaging and whatever you wish to create and live and experience into your own mind. So this whole idea of reprogramming the mind is seeing that, okay, well, my mind is like a computer, and I was taught a lot of things, dogmas, way to think, way to approach certain aspects of life, and a lot of these things were not my own.
Right.
They weren't my own. They came from someone else. And when I woke up and started this journey, I realized I wanted to be my most authentic self, which means I needed to think for myself, which means I needed to reprogram my own mind for what I wanted to experience in life. And that's where that started.
When your friend decided life was a little bit too hard and decided to go ahead and end this journey, were you in a headspace like that as well? Like, what would make his experience turn it so that you personalized it?
Yeah, absolutely. At this time, I was full of ego. So we both went to different colleges, right? Best friends in high school, but I was starting to play football and in a nice school, and I started to become very full of ego, kind of full of myself. So he reached out, and I didn't reach out in time or get back to him. And that's when this happened. So then I took that to heart. I don't think I could have changed anyone's mind, right?
Right.
But just to be aware of that, the love I withheld was the pain that I carried, but I used that pain to transform me into what I was meant to be. And that journey, I had no idea. I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know anything. But I was open enough to listen to wherever the signs were showing.
I would imagine just in, outside of the use of the tools that you're going to talk about, there's probably quite a few people who have lost somebody in their life and they feel like, well, what if I did this? What if I would have done that? And they carry this grief and pain with them. And, like you said, there's probably nothing you could have done, but because you didn't do anything, it feels like somehow there was a failure, right? I would imagine. Yeah. And so, just for people, and I think it's hard to move through that, but I do think that people should consider the option that that person made that choice, whether they were of sound mind or not, or maybe something happened to them and it was an accident, and everything depends on what you believe. But when it's your time and you've decided to leave your body, there's nothing that anybody else can do.
Absolutely. I see it as it was a great sacrifice, because that energy that was lost really aided to the energy of others to find themselves. So it was a great, great sacrifice. And it was because of that passing that I had to, I carried it. I carried it for a while because I felt like my words could possibly have made a difference, but I wasn't in the mind state to be able to do that, so I carried it. And that's what led the creation of Finally Detached. It was I told myself that, I'm going to create something that for those who are at the end and those who want to take their life, before you do it, just try this.
Right.
Come sit with me before you. I wanted to create a space for those people. Because I was there. I was contemplating suicide. Deep. I was contemplating all of it. I was waking up to the illusions all around me. I saw that my mind was programmed. I saw that everyone's mind is programmed. And I saw that no one had an awareness of it. So everyone was walking around like zombies, regurgitating a cycle that was not benefiting anything. So yeah, I contemplated, ending it, because I was like, what's the point? No one's waking up. No one sees.
Right.
So why am I here? And then I realized my job was to create the home. No one created it for me, so I had to create it for the others.
And I think that when people hear the word detached, they might confuse it with the idea of not having any feelings, but it's actually detaching from these programs, yes?
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And what is different between you and, say, I was to go to Costa Rica and do those different things that they have out there?
Oh, that's great. That's a great question. The difference is, one, I'm in the United States. It's not a retreat environment, so you're not going to be sharing space with a bunch of strangers. Even that might be healing for some people, right? You might need that camaraderie. I'm here for those who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, who are looking for breakthrough. Because the ones that I work with, I guarantee breakthrough. It's not a hit or miss. It's if you are suffering and you are tired of that, and you're willing to find something in nothing, and you're humble enough to know that you know nothing,
right,
then I'm your guy.
For me, I would say it's hard because I have gone through a lot of the stuff that you're talking about and have found different ways to try to be conscious and aware and all of these different things. And it's very hard to live in a society that is so unaware that I almost feel like it drives you more crazy because it's just like everybody is so oblivious, it feels like. So how do you deal with that?
I had to flip it on its head, right? I saw this negative, and then it became a positive. No one knows what I know. And it's like those people at top when they're always like, shh. And I finally understood. I was like, okay. But I didn't want to be a middleman, right? With certain knowledge, you can become a middleman.
Right.
Which means you can create the thing between the people to find the truth. And I woke up with this medicine, and I am here to give people truth. I am here to... The difference between me and people in Costa Rica or psychedelic therapist or these clinics that are going to start popping up or this whole wave that's coming, okay, is that I healed myself. There was no middleman. And I'm teaching people that there is no middleman.
You don't need one.
You don't need one. There's no guide. There's no shaman. There's no guru that knows something that you don't. All the answers are inside of you. It's just developing the skills, the awareness to go deeply within yourself and to be able to do that safely. There's no middleman. And I'm here to tear down this ideology because it's coming and it's been here. And if people don't grow aware of it, it's just the continuation of the next cycle. Yeah. Because it's going to be framed accordingly.
So what if somebody said, well, then you're basically the middleman, right? Because you're teaching me no different than a guru
Absolutely.
or whatever the case may be, right? So I can understand that they're doing the work, but outside of the idea that, like, if you're, somebody who believes in things like, Jesus and all of that stuff, where Jesus is the only one who can do this and you need to go through Jesus, and that's their beliefs, that's fine. But going through you, I mean, you are teaching them to do their own tools, but using your tools or using what you're teaching still feels like a middleman.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because that comes down to history and research. When you do your research, you'll find that the people, the ones that were running the land before the others came and made it what it was, were working directly with the plants. Mm-hmm. Shamanism was the truth, and there was no middlemen to source or God or the energy, if you will. It was there for the people. Then the middlemen came and created the idea of church. And then there was this whole middleman to get to the religious experience. Right. And then those middlemen came after the shamans to kill them, to get rid of them. So it comes down to research. Yeah, of course, I am a middleman, but I plan to be the last middleman. I plan to awaken by teaching everything that was taught to me. That's the truth of it. And I love that you brought up Jesus, because this is a big thing that pops up a lot. Psilocybin and working with drugs or anything of that regard seems it's evil, right? It's this evil thing. But I think this comes down to middlemen again, who
decides that that's evil.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, once you awaken, you lose all pretense, and then you go to the source. You're like, let me figure it out for myself. Right. No one can tell me anything. Let me experience it. Let me experience it. And when you do, and when you go deep enough correctly, you'll find that, man, there's something else to this. Mm-hmm. There's as if there's a voice in it. There's a teacher inside this medicine that's been waiting for me to connect with it. Oh, very similar to Jesus hearing the voice of the Father, right, and finding the right way to live. Mm-hmm. So I am moving the concept and ideas from trusting and having faith in something outside of yourself to understanding that you are it in the most humble way, that you are connected to the clouds, you are connected to the air, the trees are you, everything around you, it is all you, it is all conscious, it is all alive, it is all happening right now in this moment. and we are that. And when you tap into that, you realize you're it. And that's the great awakening.
When I was in, I think, fourth or fifth grade, I was raised Catholic, and I had to go to, catechism school and all that stuff. And I remember when it was time to learn how to do confession, I got in trouble because I questioned it, and I said, well, if the priest can talk to God directly, why do I have to talk to a priest? I can just talk to God if I wanted to. And so obviously they didn't like me in catechism school. But so I understand the middleman idea, because even as a child, that didn't feel right, right? And as children, we actually, I think, know more than we do as adults. Tell me what you would say to somebody who says you're crazy.
I'd be like, you're right.
Yeah.
Because if you're judging me off of what you know and what you've been programmed to believe, you're absolutely right. I'm completely crazy. I lost it. I lost my mind, but I found my soul.
That's one of my sayings. I actually just did that in my other podcast. I always say I lost my mind to find out who I truly am. Yeah. I had to, right? You have to lose your mind. Yeah. And people, I feel like, don't understand that, because it's like, what do you mean you lost your mind? You literally have to lose all the BS that was programmed into you to figure out who you really are, right?
It's scary. It's scary. You got to decondition yourself, because we've lived a life of thinking, okay, I know. Oh, I know everything. Okay, I have this knowledge. I know now. That's what it is. And then you experience something like a psychedelic, and it shows you how insignificant your mind really was in the whole creation of all of this.
Right. I have heard of people using, what is it? It's I just had it in my mind. I don't think it's Molly, but it's something that's like stimulates, like it heightens your senses as like a tool for marriages. What is that?
MDMA?
Yeah, I think it's MDMA. Yeah. Yeah. And is that something that you guys use in your program?
No. I mean,
Ecstasy. Is that what ecstasy is? That's the word. Yeah.
It's the same as Molly. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, no, we work specifically with the mushroom.
Okay.
The mushroom is very interesting because it has the ability to mimic many other psychedelics. But the thing I really like about it is that it's holistic. It doesn't degenerate or deteriorate your brain or parts of your body after using it, right? It's very holistic. So unlike ketamine, unlike MDMA, unlike all these other medicines that have been getting a lot of notoriety, and it's just safer for you. Our brain factors in it that have been lying dormant, waiting to receive the psilocybin. It's as if it's it's been there, and it's been working with us for a while. Yeah.
I've heard, and I've never done the scientific research on it, but that ecstasy or MDMA or Molly, whatever it's called, that it actually increases so it uses all the serotonin in your brain. And so like the next day, you could never have the exact same experience because all the serotonin has been depleted. Does that sound correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it comes with a big come down. The next day they consider it a come down because you're just lethargic. You're just kind of blah. So it's more of a, the way I can explain it, it's a very artificial.
Yeah.
It's all artificial.
You can't keep it. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes down to the mushroom, it's not artificial. There's like a spirit there. It's very alive. And it works differently on each person, and each species reacts differently to each person. Depending on your intention, that should dictate what type of species you approach. It takes skill to navigate it, but once you get the awareness of how to navigate it, and once it starts to open itself up to you because you decided to listen, and once you start to build a relationship with it the correct way through intention, it unfolds beautifully. And then you find that, wow, this one medicine does it all. And I don't need to go to these other things, which is a big trap in itself. You know, it's that big plant medicine trap where one person, they're doing ayahuasca, and then 2 months from now they're doing psilocybin, and then they're going to go try San Pedro, and then they're going to do DMT, and then they're doing all this stuff, and they still haven't found the answer. And they still haven't found a way to integrate it into the here and now and create something for the people that is going to be beneficial for the new age that's coming in.
They found a momentary relief, is what I feel like. It's my story on that is, as I was going through my journey, somebody I was going to kind of do like back adjustments had said that he knows somebody who does plant medicine aspect, and I was like, what is that? And he was like, oh, they do like a ceremony, and the person is like, you know, trained in what would be beneficial to you to give you the best experience, and da 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 da. And so in my mind, I'm thinking plant medicine, like mushrooms and like things that like grow from the earth. And so in an experience, I was talking to my husband after I had tried it, and he was like, you do know that that's basically the same as doing like speed or this or that, whatever. And I'm like, no, it's plants. And he's like, what do you think cocaine comes from? Like, he's like, they're just calling it plants to be able to sell you it. It's not what you think it is. And then he showed me, like, if you test on a home test kit, all these things come up positive for these like bad, you know, like quote unquote bad, but in my opinion, not things I want to be taking. And I completely thought it was safe because they called it plant medicine. So it's such a deceitful thing in my mind because I didn't know what I was taking. I just thought they were giving me plants.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting because I'd never ran across anything like that.
Yeah, no, and it's actually apparently a big thing in California where they get together in groups and they have somebody who, it's all supposedly made from their person, their
Shaman or their
yeah,
so
their shaman.
ayahuasca
Yeah, their
or-
shaman.
So it's ayahuasca
Yep.
you're talking about? Okay.
There was ayahuasca. So it had ayahuasca, and then it had, you know, some ecstasy type thing in it because you come up positive on MDMA, if I get that right, on the urine test. You come up positive for like a bunch of different things. And I was like, I was completely shocked because my husband's very intuitive in that stuff, and I am very naive in the idea that nobody would do that, you know. I haven't been around the block long enough, and so so what you thought was like just ayahuasca in some sort of chocolate thing was different things, and they gave you different names for it, but all of it basically ended up being where it would test positive in the drug world.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, and I know it's very popular.
Whoa, interesting. Yeah, that sounds very unsafe.
Yeah. Yes, well, that's where I was going with it, but hadn't quite got there yet. So that's why I'm interested because, like I said, I did try to microdose with mushrooms, but I didn't have any instructions except for YouTube, right? So I feel like somebody like you who has the knowledge, and I don't know if you have a team behind you, it would be an interesting experience because I have seen the benefit of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Give me an idea if somebody comes to you. What's the next step? Somebody decides this is something I want to do. I'm done with this BS. I want to live my life as my own true self. What's the next step?
Yeah, the next step is for us to have a conversation and to fill out intake forms, right? To understand, well, how prepared are you to step into a journey with the medicine, how we journey with the medicine. Because everyone's ready to step into it. You can go, any facilitator will serve you the medicine. Only if you know how to really work with it and know what you're truly looking for. Yeah, that takes a lot of awareness from your intake forms, right? What medications you're taking, what's your intention, what's your family history like, right? What are your dogmas? What do you believe? How does the journey need to be catered to you, right? So we typically tailor and customize the journey to the journeyer, and this is why we can guarantee breakthrough. It's not like you're coming to journey with us and it's a one size fits all. No. It changes. It may change all the time, depending on who I'm working with. I'm going to be there with you because we go deep. We go deeper than I know of anyone else going. because we know what the
So
medicine is
tell
and
me
we
when
don't
you
fear it.
say we don't, and how long would this process be that somebody would be in person with you, and how do they know they're safe?
That's a great question. They know they're safe because we have plenty of conversations beforehand, so they know my background. If I'm journeying with a lady, then I always have a sitter with me, a female sitter, an elder. When it's males, I like to be one-on-one. So that's how they know they're safe. We go through the whole protocol together so they know what to expect and they know how to properly prepare themselves ahead of time, like pre-ceremony, the ceremony itself, and integration. So everything's customized, everything's tailored, a full program dedicated just to them. And our breakthrough sessions typically last a weekend. You give me 3 days, I'll give you a new foundation to jump off.
When
And
they go home,
it's
how do
not
they
me.
integrate that with their life because it's so different? Yeah.
Ooh.
No, I understand.
Uh-huh. Yes. That's a great question. That is where we get into relationship building. And that's where the individual starts to step into microdosing. I don't recommend microdosing, and I don't give out microdoses to anyone who hasn't journeyed with me prior. I see this whole thing as the next fad. And a lot of people are stepping into microdosing and they don't even know what the mushroom is because they've never experienced it fully in ceremony. So because the individuals haven't experienced it, they don't have the right intention. They don't understand the true power, the wisdom behind what they're taking. So it becomes a daily vitamin instead of this thing that they're co-creating with. And that's really where becoming one's own healer, becoming one's own integrator, and unfolding your own journey for yourself, that's where that really comes into play.
So for you, do you continue to use mushrooms in your life, or did you do this, you're in a good space, and you don't need to do it anymore?
That's a great question. I got out of the way completely. So it wasn't my ego saying, okay, ego, you're healed, now I don't need you anymore. I went so deep with this medicine and was trained as a curandero to build a relationship with it. It I had to give myself up to it. And in doing so, I completely lost myself. But I opened to something new, for something else to merge with me, if you will. And I would call that the mushroom or whatever's behind it or whatever, maybe my higher self, however you want to decipher it. But I'm at a place now where, yeah, I microdose. I don't need a lot. I microdose for creativity and to tune in, right? It's all about opening my channel so I can let the messaging in. Okay, because the voice speaks very loudly and it gives ideas, it tells what to do next, it says how to execute this and that and that and that and that, and all I do is listen. So now the ego is out of the way. I don't have to make something happen. All I have to do is show up. And it's as if I'm getting wisdom from something else, and it's all I have to do is listen and everything just opens up beautifully. And that's what I'm trying to give to others, to show them that once they wake up to this, how beautiful the manifestation of life becomes. And that's something that many just don't even understand. Mm-hmm.
It's not even conceivable because we are so blinded.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do with somebody who has a history of depression and anxiety? And I would imagine most people do in the world because it's a very unnatural place to live, would be the way I would say it. And they are on medication. They're on depression medication, they're on anxiety, they're on both. They have been, and they're able to survive because, again, I wouldn't say somebody who has to take all that stuff is truly living, but they're able to survive and they feel like, okay, I've finally gotten to a place where I don't absolutely hate my life. First, let's start with the medication and how because removing somebody from medication is obviously not safe. Removing them right away and asking them to get off of it, in my opinion, but also do mushrooms interfere with the medication? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. The mushrooms, like I said, are very holistic. So what I found is that there's really no contraindications. You're not going to take mushrooms and die, period. It's not like ayahuasca. You mix that with certain medications, you're at risk for something. Not with mushrooms. The only thing I notice with mushrooms is that this, let me say it this way, this voice or that ability to go a little bit deeper, that's not there when people have medication in their system. It's as if the medication closes the channel. So I know that a great cleanse has to be done. There has to be a nice protocol beforehand, because the medication just doesn't affect your body, it affects your mind too. So now we have to go through a nice cleanse with the body, mind, right? So that's a little reprogramming. That's stepping into maybe medicinal mushrooms, right? Like lion's mane, chaga, natural ways just to cleanse the body. And before our journey, I always recommend a week. Get off your medications for a week. The more, the better, right? What I find is that people put themselves in a situation where they're like, look, dude, I don't want to take my medications. I feel like I need to, but I don't want to take them. So really, if I'm working with someone who does not want to take medications anymore, they're in a better space. I find others in the past may be also dependent on medications because they don't even know the power of their own mind. So they're so dependent on a medication that they're like, if I don't take this, something bad's going to happen. Then they're not humble enough to know that they know nothing. They think they know something, so they're not for me.
They're not, just not for you.
Because they're not going to receive the breakthrough, and I'm not going to work with you unless I can break you through.
And so what if like, so that brings like, so that brings like somebody like me who's very interested in this, right? But also somebody who also believes that there are medications for people, and I would be afraid if they went off of it, something would happen beforehand, and maybe they would, kill themselves or something because they weren't on their medication. So it just brings this, and I know fear is not a good place, right? And it controls you, but it just brings this place of fear that, if they need to be removed from the medication for at least a week before seeing you, that, and this is the part, I guess, where you say you don't know yourself or you don't know anything, but that during that time, you might get to this space where it's just too much and do something bad to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great observation. That hasn't been a concern for us, and it really hasn't escalated to any point like that. We do a very good job of our intake process, and we do a very good job of explaining the protocol and explaining intuitively the results that you may experience, you specifically. And it's only explained through experience from the other hand, not theory, not it's direct experience, right? So we do a good job of instilling enough, I don't even like to say hope because it's truth. I know it's true. They're hoping that it's real. But the conviction in myself, the knowing in myself that the medicine is so powerful and knowing how to work with it, I know if they show up, everything's going to be changed. So when I'm speaking to them like this, and they have tears running down their face saying like, oh my gosh, this is all I'm looking for. I've been waiting for this. I'm smiling back at them because I know what's going to happen. That's that's the difference between us and a lot of people. Many don't know, so they can't. It may work for you, it may not. We don't know, but we're going to hold a safe space. No. That's not what people are looking for. That's not what they need.
Right.
It's not what they need, right? And through that, it's funny. A lot of people that were dependent on medications, a lot of people that were depending on talk therapy. Even simple medications like Adderall for work and drinking coffee, right? Done. They just have the ability to choose, and they just say no. They don't need it anymore, and they feel better in doing that. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about, because it kind of broke up on my side, so I didn't get to hear it, integrating all of this back into the real world, the quote unquote real world, right? Where we actually have to live, where people are still on the hamster wheel.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you say the quote unquote real world, because that's the beauty of psilocybin. It takes all these woo woo concepts and it brings them right here into the here and now. Um, Integrating your experience is through microdosing. Um, so to us, microdosing is building a relationship. It's not the first thing that you jump into. I have not given microdoses to people who I haven't journeyed with prior. I don't recommend people microdosing unless they know what the mushroom is. And the only way you can know what it is by sitting with it in ceremony. And once you do, you feel the wisdom of it. You know it. You feel what it is. So then you approach it with a different intention. It's not a daily vitamin. It's this thing that you're able to co-create with. And you're able to set an intention and say, look, my intention for today is to be out of my way. Show me what I need to see. Keep me in alignment. Let me feel what I need to feel. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Right? Just a different intent compared to, oh, let me just take my vitamin and that's it. No, you. That's the beauty of going into a ceremony, is that you see the magic of your own intention. You see that whatever you intend happens. So it becomes truly a magic mushroom. It becomes this magical experience that you're able to meet halfway. And if you don't experience that, then you're open to middlemen.
Yeah.
You're open to having to read it from a book about what's the right, how do I dose this right, and what's the best regimen? Do I do 4 days on and 2 days off, or do I do 5 days, or do I 3, 2, 1? You're open to all of these things when you're not listening to yourself. Because if you do it right to begin with, you'll get out of your way, and then the medicine is going to tell you what's best for you. No human can tell another human what's best for them. You must go within yourself and figure that out for yourself. That's what this work is.
And are the journeys one-on-one? Do you guys do couple journeys? Like, give me an idea of how that works.
Yeah, that's I like to keep the space as small as possible. So the largest group that we've done was a group of 3, a small family. Couples, yes, as well as individuals. But the thing is, we don't put energies that won't meld together in the same space, right? So really depending on the intention, really depending on intake forms, really depending on the conversations that we have, I'm not going to let someone else join a space and pull someone else out of their experience.
So even if you have a couple that you think maybe like they want to do it together, but you interview them, you do your intake, and you find that, you know what, probably it's not best that we do it together, that you'll say that?
I always say that, yep.
Yeah.
And like I say, we have ways to create around it. So I have other facilitators and sitters that I work with that we're able to set up 2 journey spaces. We're able to imbibe the medicine together and set the intention together, but then we're able to kind of split up and have our different experiences and then come together for integration if that's required. Or maybe people just want to sit together. But I'm very transparent on the way to figure it out is to go in alone. If you want to figure it out for yourself, you must go in alone, no distractions. You got to figure it out, because when you do, that's when you're going to be the best for everyone around you. But if you're waiting for everyone else, then...
Right.
Yeah.
And I would imagine as a couple, you're kind of like, well, I don't want to do something that they're going to see and they're going to think I don't like them, or, you know, something like you would be holding yourself back for some reason at some point in time. Do you find a lot of people come back to their lives that they had before meeting you and break off relationships with people and just say, I'm done with this bullshit?
That's a great question. I have had that. Yeah, people that are in toxic relationships, not one-on-one couples that have done that to each other. Usually the couples that come do the work, they kind of grow a little deeper because it's just a deeper bond. But more for those who are detaching from relationships that don't serve them, the friends that keep talking about the negative stuff over and over and over and over and over again. And the only reason why you were around it is because it was inside of you. It was that mirror. It was inside of you, so that's why you were relating to it.
Right.
But after these deep journeys, once it's not in you anymore, it's like, it kind of irks me. Their words irk me a little bit. So you're a little more in tune with your energy. You start to see, wow, this kind of bothers me a little bit. I'm able to wear the mask and no one knows anything. No one knows that it bothers me, right? And it doesn't drain my energy. It just, I have a feeling inside of me that it's not right. And that's your intuition.
Yeah.
So this working with this medicine gets you more in tune with your intuition. And when you follow your own intuition, that leads you on your journey, which then helps you to become your own healer, your own guide, your own guru.
Do you have people who use it to try to get into a place where they can do like mediumship and intuitive work? Is that something that often comes out of this?
That's something that definitely comes out of this work once you go deep enough and once you get out of the way. But I recommend no one to approach it for that reason, because that's just the ego in its own way.
Right.
But if you're willing to sacrifice yourself, if you're willing to sacrifice your mind and what you think you know for whatever this medicine wants to show you, that's where those deepest channels open, where, that's where that is.
So let's say you have never allowed yourself to experience, let's just say, spirits from non-physical form, right? And then all of a sudden you can experience this. Do people go batshit crazy? Like, what the hell's this?
No,
I would imagine if like you're just sleepy and you feel like an energy.
Yeah, no, when I say that the mushroom is alive, it's very intelligent and it knows who is taking it. It's as if when you take the mushroom, it's taking you. And when you're studying it, it is studying you. So it is figuring out how your mind works. It knows your biggest tics. It knows your darkest secrets. It knows everything about you. And you can't hide from it. So it knows how to give you exactly what you need without making you go batshit crazy. It knows how to work with you. It's not going to break you through if you're not ready. It's going to tell you the next step. It's going to tell you the next step. So that's a lot of things that come from the people that come with medication. I know that there's just not enough clarity for them to know what's next. They're not even looking to fix everything about them. They're just looking to feel better. And I know that when they approach, they're going to be able to leave with a higher awareness, more in tune with their intuition, where they're going to be able to decipher what's next. So they're no longer in limbo. Now it's up to them to do the work. And that's where the co-creating, if you will, or building that relationship with microdoses really comes into play, because it helps you to execute what needs to be done.
What's your minimum age?
Great question. My minimum age, I'll say 21, but I have had parents who reached out to me with, say, high schoolers who are contemplating suicide and stuff of that nature, where I would have no problem sitting for someone in that regard, because that's why I started it in the first place.
You know, it's why I named my podcast Mental Health, right? Because I truly feel like if people are aware enough of the craziness of the actual world that we live in, it's hell living in it, unless you've come to a place like it seems like you have, where you learn to take it and spin it as a positive. But if you're not in that space yet, it really is like, you know, you see stuff and you're just like, I can't believe this is the world we live in. It's just, and so many people feed into it. It's just this, I almost feel like it would be harder to be more aware because it's hard enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because that's what comes with the territory. When you increase your awareness, you increase your sensitivity. So you become more sensitive, right? You start to see a little more. Um, Absolutely. But then again, you
Yeah.
get choice, and then you get knowledge on the tools to approach with it. Um, it brings contentment, because when you go deep enough on any psychedelic, let's just say it like
Right.
this, um, the duality of life, that illusion gets crushed. You see that, wow, okay, there is no such thing as good or bad. It's all
It
an
just is.
idea. It just is, and you can't have good without bad. You can't have black without white. You can't have stars without space. You can't, like, it. It's both sides of the same coin. So then you stop feeding into any of the energy, and once you stop feeding into it, you start to see how much energy you have available, and then you start to be free of all this energy. And then you're like, what's next? What's next? And then from there, that's where you're able to create and find what you are here to do, and create full force and do that until you know your last breath is here on this realm.
Sounds empowering. I know John Hopkins is doing a study on microdosing, and using this as a tool, as a breakthrough, just for validation for people who think that this is, they need the more scientific validation. That's something that they should probably look into. The fact that you're not just some, bum off the street who decided to give people mushrooms. So, just to comment on my side, because I do know how judgmental people can be. But for some reason, when there's this scientific like validation, and it's not like our own validation isn't enough, right? Some people need that scientific validation before they would even consider the journey with you. So we were kind of talking about, we're going to, getting into an hour, but we were talking about next steps. So somebody listens to this and they're like, this touches me. This feels right to me. Okay. So they do, how do they contact you to do this intake form? Is it you that they talk to, or is there other people that they talk to? How does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would recommend is that if you're called, if walking the medicine path with the mushroom calls you, I would recommend going to finallydetached.com, www.finallydetached.com, and you'll see a little fill out form there. I'll recommend watching the video on the page just so you can get a little more background. And once you submit your information, I'll go ahead and shoot you over an email with a link where we can book a call, you and I. And I'll also send you some additional information, right? Some client comments, if you will, past journeyers, some video testimonials, stuff of that nature, just so you can know if this is the path you want to walk, right? And if so, if that's the case, then we go ahead and book a call, and then I get to know a little bit more about you, about why you're really looking to do this work, what have you tried before, why that hasn't worked, or why you perceive it hasn't worked, right? Just going a little deeper. And from there, I'll send you the intake forms, and that's where I will really get a good understanding of, okay, is this something that we can approach, and is it realistic to set these expectations? Because I never share expectations with the journeyer, but I always have it for myself. So I take great pride, and I'm very much approach this with integrity, if you will. Wouldn't just work with anyone.
Right. So everybody's going to ask, let's talk money. Now, you don't have to give figures and stuff like that, but of course, it's like this, I feel like it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, I want to get better, but how much is that going to cost, right? And I think we're cynics because of all of the fads, like you say, like this is a fad. This is a lot of people going out there, going to people's homes, saying, it's $1,000 a person, I'll sleep overnight, blah, 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 blah. Talk to me about the financial part of it, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into numbers over here, but what I will tell you is that, let me put it this way. I've had journeyers who I worked with who literally verbatim words out of their mouth. Holy shit. This is like 10 years of therapy in one night. You know how much money you would have saved me if I would have just done this? So really think about all the courses, all the supplements, all the shit that you took, all the time that you wasted. Really think about everything, and really think about if you can put a price on that. And if you can, then that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, obviously there is, I always think of money as energy. And so it's an exchange of energy. And it happens to be about it that way. And maybe they're not ready then at that point too, right?
Yeah.
So any final words?
Yeah. Final words, no matter what path you're called to walk, just walk it. Even if it's no path at all, and even if it's just mindfulness, right? If you're just a meditator and you're like, dude, meditation is the way to enlightenment, and that's beautiful, man. Keep going, and share your wisdom, right? Go so deep into it where you find out your way, right? Don't just regurgitate others. Find it for yourself, and then bring that back to the people, because that's the true medicine, and that's going to be the medicine that's relevant to this day and age. Nothing in the past is going to work, because if it did, it would already have. So it's time for us to tune in, awaken, and to get out of our own way.
Yeah. Isn't that right? Absolutely. Anytime I'm in a problem, I've created it somehow. Even if I want to think I didn't.
Right.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And so go ahead and give us your website again, all included in the description.
Yeah, absolutely. www.finallydetached.com.
Okay, perfect. And then one more thing, I feel like I didn't quite know if I heard the answer. Do they work directly with you, or is it like there are other people that they could possibly end up working with?
Yeah, there's other people who they could work with if they wanted to, but they always work with me.
And then they go to Florida? Is that where it would be?
They can come to Florida, Jamaica, Portugal, Oregon, or I can come to them. So it's really anywhere around the globe. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's for the people in Orange County who have a bunch of money. He can come to you. Just kidding. But it's lovely that it's not just one destination. By the way, my family is from Portugal on my dad's side, so that's kind of amazing. I've always wanted to go there. Just side note. Love it. Well, thank you for sharing your time with us. I know, just because I feel like it's the way that it works. I know we don't know anything, by the way, but it just seems like it's the way that it works from my observation, that the people who are meant to hear this will hear it, absorb it, and be able to follow the path that's best for them.
Yep. You said it right. And that's why I'm grateful for the work you're doing, because it only takes that one, right? I'm not here to awaken the world. I'm here to awaken that one who has the potential to awaken another, and then that's how everyone gets what they deserve. Mm-hmm.
And thank you for your journey for doing that.
Cheers to us.